Freedom's just another word for I need to sell more wine. Sales and marketing, the necessary evil of all industries, even wine. And UC Davis students can now sell their wine. Looks like we got a theme going. All that and more on this episode of This Week Uncorked. Hello and welcome to episode 49 of This Week Uncorked for June 23rd, 2025, coming you from Tuscany. I'm Brett Martin from Cork and Journey, your number one source for Corkage fees, wine reviews, winery reviews, restaurant reviews, and more. You can get all of that all over at corkandjourney.com. And with that, let's get right into this week's wine news. All right, our first article is from Wine Searcher, and it's the fight for wine freedom. This is by Nat Cellars. Basically, this is covering all of the different laws having to do with how you can ship wine, who can ship wine, what they relate to. And it's just impossible to get these to change. So they're trying to start a grassroots movement among the people, us, to get this to change. So from the article, here's what he says. Tom Wark, who's the executive director of the National Association of Wine Retailers, explains, wine freedom is an initiative to engage consumers in the important project of both modernizing alcohol beverage laws so that it reflects the modern economy as well as serves consumers. Only 13 states, for example, allow their consumers to legally receive wine shipments from out-of-state wine retailers, wine of the month clubs, or wine auction houses. But, Walk continues, this is despite the fact that consumers in 47 states can receive wine shipments directly from out-of-state wineries. These restrictions across 37 states ultimately punish the customer, Wark says. Consumers there have access to only a very small minority of wines available in the U.S., and often only those wines distributed by the shrinking and consolidating wholesale tier. We've talked about this three-tier distribution model for a while. We've talked about it, how it affects industry. It's difficult. So what they're saying here, and the crazy part is that if you are a winery, in a lot of cases, you can directly ship. As a matter of fact, most states allow the winery to directly ship to consumers. But if you have just this wine club, maybe wine of the month club, you're an out-of-state wine retailer, all these kind of things, you can't ship. There's just so many different things. I just ran into this recently with Ian Cobble, who was the founder of San Felice, started a whole nother little wine club, and I joined it, and I live in Nevada now, and Nevada is evidently one of those states where, hey, it's a wine club where they're just picking out all these different wines. Nope, sorry, you can't ship. So real problematic. Anyway, there's a lot of different ways around this. You can work through wine shipping places and all this kind of thing. But anyway, this is just a push to simplify that entire process. And moving on with the next story, this kind of has to do with the same thing, but it's from the Napa Valley Features Wine Chronicles. Making wine is great, selling it is a nightmare. Sales and marketing. This is truly a winemaker's nightmare, but really this is the case with every single industry and every single product. You can make a great product. It can be the best thing that anyone's ever seen. But if you don't have marketing behind it and you don't have a sales team behind it, it is really, really, really difficult to get your product out to market. And this is the same for winemakers. And most of these guys, this is an article by Dan Berger, and he basically is just pointing out that winemakers, they're not necessarily the best salespeople. They're not necessarily the best marketing people. And it's just problematic for them to get their wine to market. From the article, I cannot tell you the number of times a skilled winemaker, someone who spent years taking courses in chemistry and microbiology, who worked in menial jobs, cleaning wine barrels and hauling hoses, and finally made it to the big time, making fine wine, has said to me roughly the same thing. Making wine is great, selling it is a nightmare, or words to that effect, often without any gentility and slightly bitter tone. Yeah, it's a problem. And I honestly think that maybe winemakers, I say this all the time, we'll go into a winery. They leave so much money on the table when you're coming in for tastings, but there needs to be a playbook for winemakers, especially small independent ones who've made the wine and they've got it there. They need to say, here are the steps you've got to go through. How are you going to get your tastings out there? How are you going to get into restaurants? How are you going to do the industry tastings? What is your PR campaign going to be? What shows are you going to have to do? Because it is a grind to get your name out there, to get your label out there. It's a lot of work. You're going to this wine festival and this wine fair and just slogging it out, trying to get people to understand, hey, I've got a great wine. And I've seen a lot of them just, go under. Great wines. We've met them. They're doing great. But, it's not an easy industry, as we have discussed. And with that, let's talk about our sponsor, us. If you're looking for corkage fees, really, where should you go? You should go to corkandjourney.com. Why? Because we're your number one source for corkage fees. That's where you go. You say, hey, I'm going out tonight. I'm in this city. I'm in a new city. Maybe you just want to try out a new restaurant. You can search by a radius. You can search by the restaurant name. There's a million ways you can search. But you can find the restaurant, find the corkage fee, get the information on it. Oftentimes, maybe we'll have a review of it or a link to the Google reviews so you can check out what other people think about the restaurant as well. Anyway, head over to corkandjourney.com. We're your number one source for corkage fees and all the other stuff we've talked about as well. Thanks for supporting us. With that, let's get right on with the rest of the news. Well, it's always kind of strange when I'd see a news story literally the day after I was at the winery talking to the people at the winery. And that happened to be the case with this story today. This is a press release, San Felice and Thomas Duclos, a strategic collaboration to elevate the winery's 3 Tuscan estates. So basically, this is San Felice. So they are an absolutely major wine producer here in Tuscany. This Bigarello is it's super Tuscan blend. It's amazing. They do so many really, really good things over there. Tina and I were just out there and just amazing. They do really, really nice stuff. Well, when we're there, we're talking to them. We always kind of interview them a little bit, kind of who's your winemaker? And they're like, oh, our winemaker was the legendary winemaker Leonardo Bellicini, but he retired in 2023 and he's not around anymore. And now our new winemaker is Francesca Guioli. And, she's now the new winemaker. She's just kind of taken over. But it looks like San Felice, I don't know. I'm trying to do some research on Francesca. She's still there, I think. But now they've brought in kind of a real heavy hitter kind of winemaking, consulting winemaker to help them with all 3 of their various labels. They have the San Felice label, which is kind of your Chianti Classico. They do some other stuff there. They've got their Campigiovanni label. They've got their Bellagio label. They're kind of doing a whole bunch of variety of things there. But from the article, San Felice has selected Thomas Duclos as a consulting winemaker known for his disciplined approach, centered on purity, balance, and elegance. Duclos will support and mentor the winemaking teams for our 3 estates. So my guess is that means that Francesca, maybe some mentoring there for her. San Felice, Campigiovanni, and Bellagio. Helping us innovate and enhance our expertise, showcase each terroir's unique identity, and elevate the personality and recognition of our wines to new heights, said Mario Gusia, president of San Felice. Wish them all the luck. I will tell you that all the wines we tasted were back kind of from the previous winemaker because we're looking at stuff from the, 2020, 2019, 2017, 2021, 22. So it was all the previous winemaker. Absolutely amazing wines from this place. So I imagine they're just trying to continue that tradition. So shout out to them. And if you are in Tuscany and the Chianti region, head on over to San Felice. You can't go wrong. And with that, we'll move on to our last story, which is all around selling wine. UC Davis has launched its small batch wine label. It's really nice to see this program in place. I hope some really good stuff comes out of this. But here is from the article so you get the upshot of what this all means and how government intervention and just the craziness of some of the rules that we have around all of this stuff. For the first time in its storied history, the University of California, Davis is selling wines to the public made by students, staff, and faculty from grapes they grow in Napa and around the Napa Valley campus in Yolo County. Hillgard 631 has been in the works for more than 10 years, which was made possible by a 2021 state law that allows the transfer as much of 20,000 gallons of Department of Viticulture and Enology wines to a nonprofit that will handle public sales. With this release, the department bottled roughly 500 gallons of wine to sell. Money from the sales will support student scholarships. By using the grapes and wines produced through teaching, the department is enhancing sustainability. Prior to this, all the wines made by students, including in the 10-week winemaking training course, had to be discarded and dumped. What a waste that was. So, hey, great to see, good change. You could do 20,000 gallons. It says you did roughly 500. Maybe the rest was plonk. You didn't want to do it, but I'm glad to see that at least what you guys think of some of the good stuff is making it to market. Looking to try out what these future winemakers have to offer. So congrats to UC Davis. Congrats to the people in the enology courses over there. So shout out to everybody. And with that, let's get into our wine and winery of the week. All right, we're going to go to Ampelos Cellars. They are basically in the Lompoc ghetto, but they have their own winery up in Santa Rita Hills there. We stopped in there, decent wines across the board. Nothing going to blow your mind, but really, really decent stuff. All sustainable farming, all biodynamic, all organic. They just switched some ownership over there. It was some interesting. We tried to, I think, 10 wines. You can see it all in the review there. I went through them. They were all kind of in the mid 80s to cresting just right at 90. Good stuff. Very enjoyable. Very reasonable tasting. Just lovely. So if you're in the Lompoc ghetto, go check them out. Or if you're up in Santa Rita Hills, I understand they have a stunning winery. We didn't get a chance to get up there and see it, but I understand it's great. And for the wine of the week, I chose the 2020 Ampelos Syrah Gamma, the Complex. So this is a Syrah, and it is just nice. $37, 90 points. Hard to go wrong. Just kind of a daily drinker kind of wine. $37 is the top end of what you want to pay, I think, for just a decent wine, but it was good. And if you're there, it's probably one you're going to want to try when you're visiting their winery. So add this to the list. We're going to put together a little Lompoc guide here soon for when you're up there. My guess is you're probably going to kind of be over in Solvang, and you're going to be in San Ynez, and maybe you kind of want to check out that. Depending on how long you're up there, it's another nice little area to check out the wine and the wineries. And with that, let's get into our restaurant and corkage of the week. All right, we're going to head to Las Vegas, from Tuscany to Las Vegas, 7,000 miles, to 888 Japanese BBQ. This is a legend in Las Vegas. We had to check it out. Moderate on the pricing, towards the high side. If you know Korean barbecue, Japanese barbecue is very, very similar. The 888 comes from their sauces that they used to offer. Anyway, it is just a decent menu. They've got 3 different types. It's $30 per person to $50 per person, so reasonably priced really across the board. Everything was good. If you're into Japanese barbecue, Korean barbecue, this is a place worth trying. Really nice setting. I mean, beautiful inside, very comfortable. Service was excellent. So off the strip on Decatur Boulevard, kind of out there, but you're looking for something good, you want to get off the strip, check out 888 BBQ. And their corkage fee is $40. So reasonable for Las Vegas, kind of a high end for a little place like this, but anyway, worth checking out. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Cork and Journey. I want to thank everybody so much for following us every week. We hope you subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on all your podcast apps. Follow us on your social media apps. And with that, until next week from Florence, I think. Cheers. See you soon.